right. Well, we have a really special guest today on the team huddle. I don't have numbers for recognition because I didn't get any IP report or anything, so we're not going to go through that. Um, Obviously, things are going really well. Production's up, everything's up. People are recruiting left and right. Lots of families are getting help. We're doing it lots of different ways, whether that be in person, on Zoom, on the phone. Um, Been traveling a lot. Lots of hungry people out there, excited about FFL, more excitement than I've seen in a really long time. One thing I do want to share with you guys is fflevents.com. So what I want you to do is make a habit of seeing that like every day, because we're posting all the new meetings on that on a regular basis. All the integrity partners are chipping in, communicating with my staff so that we keep that updated. Because one of the things I found out as I was traveling last week was that there's a lot of people that are brand new that miss meetings in their own backyard because we aren't using one centralized location to promote everything. So we're trying to do a really good job, much better job than we've ever done, of communicating where the meetings are. Because some of the meetings I went to last week, if new agents would have been there, they would have went home and wrote business. That would have happened, guaranteed. I mean, I don't know how you would walk out of some of those venues without knowing exactly what to do and how to do it, how much to spend on leads, and what to expect going forward. So with that being said, our guest today, so when I sent this out, Cassandra, I said that, you're an honorary coast to coast. As you're my favorite agent outside of coast to coast. And it's tied. You're a co-favorite. My other favorite is Sheila Day. They're my two co-favorites outside of coast to coast. So you guys are honorary coast to coast. But I'm really excited for you guys to hear from Cassandra today. I'm gonna talk to her about the hybrid method. I've heard her sell on the phone. She's really good at it. I also know that she runs a lot of appointments. She still likes to go out and help people and see people in person. She's always learning. She's always trying to get better. She's a student of the business. She's really good at getting people started in the business, and her team just has a ton of like momentum and traction right now. And I think we could all learn from what she's doing. So with that being said, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. There we go. All right. And I think I am recording. Yeah, I'm recording. So hi Cass, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing excellent. I'm just, dialing, booking appointments for the weekend.
Nice. I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect anything less. So for those that don't know you, Cass, tell everybody a little bit about your background and how you got started with FFL, and then we'll jump into it.
Sure. So I was a personal trainer. I was bartending before I found Family First Life. And one of my colleagues at the gym I was working at was leaving. And I said, "Why are you leaving? You're making pretty good money." And I said, "Show me why you're leaving. Because if you're leaving and you're making pretty good money, I want to know." And I wanted something that I could build a career for myself. And personal training was hour to hour. And you can only make so much money hour to hour. And I was almost 30 at the time. And he showed me Family First Life. I went to a business development meeting actually. And I met Andrew Taylor. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you going to convention?" This was the Las Vegas convention.
Yeah.
And I go, "I don't know." And he goes, "Look, if you want to make $100,000 more in this next year, you'll go." And I said, "Okay."
What he would say now is, if you want to help 100 families.
Oh, yeah. If you want to, help 100 families, then you'll go. So I went, and I went without a license, and I just jumped in. And I loved everybody, well, mostly everybody that I met, super nice, super humble, and especially the people that were doing well in this business were really nice and really humble and really willing to share what they were doing to have success in this business is what I always appreciated about this company.
Well, I love that. And speaking of BDMs, I should have said this when I was doing the announcement. So on Sundays, Pacific time, I'm going to start at 1 Pacific time, and I'm going to do a BDM at 1, 3, 5, 7, and those 4 times. So I'm going to do 4 on Sunday. So if you guys have people that you want to introduce to FFL, or maybe they've seen some information, or maybe they've seen the Rogue IMO, or you've explained it to them or whatever, I'm going to do that every Sunday until I either, find somebody else to do it or I die. And so that's my new goal, because the BDMs were definitely working when we were doing them in person. Now with Zoom, we really can't do the same effect. I got this little nifty thing. I don't know if you ever saw this nifty thing. So it's like this little, it's like a camera, and then you plug it in, and I can write, like when you were in school.
Oh yeah, I used one of those when I was doing a podcast with Andrew one time. They brought it out so we could show like leads and all that.
Yeah, it's like an overhead projector, but you could use it on Zoom. So that's how I'm going to do the BDM. I'm going to just draw it out on the thing, and I think it'll help us recruit more. And of course, being honorary coast to coast, you can plug into that. It's what you want to.
Perfect.
So that's how you got started. I remember that. I actually remember when he went to go do that BDM. Was it in Austin or was it in Dallas?
It was in the Dallas, the Grapevine Convention Center.
Yes, I actually remember that when that happened. So things have been going real well for you. You were traveling, doing a bunch of travel trips. I don't know if it did start out. I think you helped over 50 families your first month.
Actually, my first month, I helped only 5 families. My second month was 25 families, and then I hovered around that number for actually maybe 5 more months or 6 more months. And then it wasn't until my 7th month until I helped 50 families, actually. It took me some time.
Oh, wow. That's a much better story. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
walk us through that. Because one thing you do really well is you do relate to new people really well. That's why you get so many people to write.
Yeah. So my first month, I was still personal training some on the side. And I was thinking to myself, this isn't going to work for me personally, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That's just not the type of person I am. I get distracted easily. So I need to just focus on one thing at a time. So I stopped personal training. Well, kind of because I had to, because the pandemic happened and my gym shut down and I didn't really have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like kind of online training and stuff. It's not the same. And then after that, my first person I sat with, I remember it was during COVID, and I had to really convince people to let me come over during COVID. I mean, it was at the start of it. So we did the appointment outside on a picnic table. It was super easy. And I helped my first client, the first person I sat with 0 experience in the insurance industry. So it's not tough. You just have to be genuine with people and try to help them. And then I was hovering around 25, and it was because I was inconsistent with my lead purchases, and I was inconsistent with my dialing, and I was not finding that I was the problem, but you're always the problem. If you got problems, you're everywhere that you go. So you're the problem. And then I just started being more consistent with my lead purchases and got on some different types of lead sources. And then the rest is history. And then my first year, I helped over 200 families in about 7 months, 8 months. And then my second year, full year, which was last year, I was 412 families helped.
Yes. You were a long way out, like November 25th.
I know.
So
I was cutting it so close.
But you got it done.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing people struggle with, Cassandra, is the lead purchase thing, or judging the leads, or saying the leads don't work. And what you said is you're the problem. If I could get everybody to adapt that, you could succeed, because it's obviously working for someone. But what happens is people will listen to people say, well, I was at the meeting and I heard Rob I shouldn't say Rob. I don't mean Rob Kakish. He's completely positive, wonderful. I could just pull the name out of thin air. I heard Bob. Okay, we don't have any Bobs. I heard Bob say that, this lead didn't work, and because he was doing a hallway seminar. Like, that's what it's about. If you could just keep your mind right, not listen to the wrong people, and just take full responsibility, um, then you can have a lot of success at it. But it's the lead thing that messes people up. How'd you get to where you were purchasing the leads and taking full responsibility the way you do?
Well, because I got tired of the up and the down. If you go to a store and they have produce one week, but not produce the second week, you're probably going to stop going to that store. Like, it's going to go out of business. And in any business, you need supplies. And in the insurance business, you need supplies, and those are the leads. So I got really tired of the emotional roller coaster that is buying leads, not buying leads. And so I just, made a decision that, every week I was personally going to, am I allowed to say how much to spend on leads?
Yes,
Am I allowed to
absolutely.
say? Okay.
Yeah,
So in the beginning, I just said, okay, I'm going to spend 1,000 a week on leads no matter what. And if you spend $1,000 on leads and you're not silly, you are going to work the leads. And if you don't do that and you just want to waste your money, then you shouldn't be in this business.
right. And you'll find out real fast.
Exactly.
If you invest $1,000 in leads and you don't work them, like,
Go get a job.
yeah, go get a job. It's okay. Or, I mean, I'll even give you some grace. Like, if you do it once, you're like, I was too scared. And then you do it twice, you actually need the money and you still don't work them. Well, then definitely go get a job, because
Yeah.
you're just hurting yourself and you're not helping the clients. But I don't know
Well,
the person that'll put themselves in that kind of position, you know?
mm-mm. No, and then if you do get in a bind and you show the person that brought you into this business and they're good at what they do, helping you, coaching you, and you show them, here's my activity. I did this, this is how many dials I did. This is how many appointments that I booked. This is how many door knocks I did over the course of the week. And you didn't sell anything, but you're showing me that you made 1,000 dials that week, and I can look at your stuff, and you're showing me that you booked, 20 appointments and everybody no-showed you except for 2. Then I'm gonna say, okay, it's a phone thing. Let's work on your phone skills and stuff like that. And, maybe I might throw some leads your way, like some old leads that I have or something like that, to try to help you get out of the situation that you're in, because, this is a business. And if you don't treat it like a business, it's gonna eat you alive.
Right. And that's how it goes. You know how many people that I talk to that are just like, so I have agents on the team, not on my team. I've heard this on other teams because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But inevitably, like, I'll talk to managers and they'll get on the phone with me and say, well, I talked to Bob and he made some really good points about, no, you got sold by Bob on the fact that he's working when he's really not working.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not telling you the truth.
Yeah.
If he bought 1,000 leads or $1,000 worth of leads and he dialed them, and a question came up there, how much do you spend on leads now? How much do you spend on leads now?
About 2,000 a week.
So most Hall of Fame producers will say that. And the formula that I've always used, and this holds true. Now, so the problem with formulas is, there's always an outlier. And I
Yeah.
probably was the outlier, right, when I first started. But the formula is, if you invest $1,000 on leads, you should help 5 families as a new person. I don't really care what kind of leads there are. If you buy $1,000 worth of $1 CRM leads that are 5 years old, you'll help 5 families. Or you should at least not stop until you at least help 5 families, right? If you spend $1,000 on $80 retro mortgage protection leads, which will get you like 11 of them or 12, you'll help 5 families. That's just the way it is. So when you get good, though, well, Paul McLean, if he got $1,000 worth of leads, he would help 10 families. And he still would. And the question I would always ask myself when the lead thing came up, Cassandra, is like, what if Paul had those leads? Like, what would he do with them?
Mhm.
Like, they say, well, these leads are a final expense in a bad neighborhood. Yeah, but we ran appointments in Compton. Like, that's my favorite place to run appointments. You know, like, and I know sell a lot, but Paul would run in Compton and he'd sell 80% of the people he sat with, no matter what kind of lead it was. But the way you said it is the right way. Like, if it's not working, it's because of you. It's not anything else. Man, I should just ask you questions instead
You can. You can ask me questions.
so
I'm an open book.
so so what about that? So lead wise, when you said you changed up your lead strategy, how did you change it up? What did you do? What were you doing?
So
What did you do different? What did you open your
so
mind to?
at the beginning, I was running predominantly happy agent and game time leads. Those are our Facebook final expense lead vendors. And towards the middle of that 6 months, the beginning, I was spending $1,000 per dial day. So I'd order like 20 of the happy agent and 20 of the game time, but in different counties to make sure that there wasn't an overlap in leads, the names, because look, it's an internet life lead. They're filling stuff out multiple places. Like there's no such thing as an exclusive lead because not even mortgage leads are exclusive. Like they filled one card out. I've had clients that filled 5 cards out, and you just got to be good at your job. So how did I make sure leads came in for the happy agent and the game time, you can email the vendor and you can see how long it will take for your area for the leads to come in. If it's a more densely populated area, then the leads will come in quicker. If it's a less populated area, then the leads are going to trickle in at a very slow rate. But the cool thing is that you are having the availability to work virtually, which I didn't have that availability when, 2 years ago when I started. Virtual and telesales weren't really a thing in FFL. So I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was trying to book appointments during COVID, and man, that was tough. So everybody on this call really has the availability to win, even if you are in a really small area. But I just made sure that, you can set alarms on your phones. Hey, order my leads, or put an alarm on your calendar. And I just got really good at being really rigid on ordering my leads on Fridays for Mondays and on Mondays for Thursdays, dial days.
Got it.
Yeah.
So when you did that in the beginning, do you think new agents should start in the field, or if somebody wants to do telesales, should they just straight try to do telesales with no experience, or how do you help people
And
with that?
I'm not saying my opinion is the correct one. I just want to say that up front. But in my opinion, it really helped me being in front of people and acclimating to the environment of the in-home. Because do you feel like it's easier to protect families in person when you are doing appointments? For me personally, yes. I feel like it's a lot easier to help a family in home than it is via telesale, because there is such a thing as like energy, and like when you feel somebody when you're with them. I think virtual is good, like this is good because you can see people's facial expressions and kind of understand where they're coming from a little bit better. It's always going to be easier to sell in person. Now, is it easy to be in the car for 16 hours a day and get no-showed all day? No, that's not easy. Like there's give and takes. Like it's gonna be harder and easier on both ends. But for me personally, it really helped me to be able to transition into virtual and telesales, because I kind of know where the client's at when they say certain phrases to me. That was helpful.
Right. I agree with that. I think one of the things I figured out, because I did some phone sales, And I liked it because I wasn't driving around 16 hours.
Yeah.
But I also realized if I didn't have all the experience driving around and meeting with people and get told no in their house, and like all that experience really helps because you can identify what's real and what's not real. Like I can picture it in my head what's going on in the house
Yeah.
because I've done it so many times.
Yeah.
But if I was just, if I just used to work at Target and now I'm trying to sell insurance, if I went straight to the phone, it could get really discouraging real fast. So I think it's a good idea to go see people if you have the
Well,
leads in your backyard when you start.
also the thing is people want to do telesales and Zoom sales because they think it's going to be easier and it's not. In my
Right.
opinion, it's hard. It was harder for me and I'm still learning it. Like I'm just now adopting a hybrid schedule, like literally within the last couple of weeks. Like I'm just now getting into it because I think that if I can really harness how to do it, then it's going to be easier for me to utilize my time to build an agency and still sell and lead from the front because that's really important.
Yep, I agree. Well, one of the things that I used to do, I like being on the road because if I got no-showed or whatever, that's when I would talk to agents.
Hmm.
And if I was just sitting around the office, just letting the time go by and reacting to everything, it's really hard to be proactive. But when you're out, like if you're already out,
Hmm.
whereas I look at Elaine's doing a really good job with the hybrid thing because she has a big team. And if somebody no shows her on Zoom, then she's just on her phone talking to agents like she would have been doing anyway. So
Yeah.
for her, it's a good fit right now. But if I think back to when she started, it wouldn't have worked. Like she had to be out.
Hmm. Yeah. It's hard to figure out what works best and what doesn't work best. You just got to figure out what works best for you.
Oh, let's look at some of these other questions.
Sure.
Um, what does your hybrid schedule look like? What are your go-to leads to buy now? I would
Uh-huh.
say.
So I am trying to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes I'll run on Sunday too. If I don't hit my goal, I'll just run appointments on Sunday too in the field. And then I'm trying to sell hybrid on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Got it.
Yeah.
What do you do for building your agency?
So I have been utilizing my social media a lot more. I've actually gotten a couple interviews off of my social media so far, and we haven't even started really diving into it. So, sending out, this has all been said before, but sending out like 100 messages on your Instagram a day and just connecting with people and just asking genuine questions about them and something that you connect with on their profile, but not just diving into, hey, I'm an FFL agent, join my team. That's not attractive. You have to build a relationship with them. So I'm working on that for recruiting. And anytime I'm out and about, like if I'm in an Uber or whatever, I'm in a restaurant and you find someone that has really good service, I always try to recruit them. I just ask questions such as, do you see yourself doing this forever?
Mhm.
What do you want to do? Stuff like that. So you can always be recruiting
Yeah,
and reaching out to your warm market. And I haven't done a good enough job utilizing my warm market, but I'm starting to go onto my Facebook. I've got like 1,000 friends on Facebook, and I'm just messaging my friends on Facebook. I'm going literally from A to Z. I'm still in the A's, and I'm just messaging people, be like, hey, what's up? How's it going? And that's what I'm doing for recruiting.
right. And that's interesting. See, it's being proactive about it, and it's people get the whole warm market thing messed around. Like they think it has to be your best friend, and you're inviting them over for dinner to draw circles on a whiteboard, and it's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that. If I was going through my Facebook friends, I mean, think about how many Facebook friends you could start the conversation like, "Hey, we've been Facebook friends for a long time. Remind me how I know you."
Yeah, yeah, that's actually what I do
It's
that.
a really easy way to start a conversation, right?
Yeah. super easy and genuine. Like, hey, I don't know how I know you, but I'd like to know what's up.
Yep. And people don't do that. What people do is they get on Facebook and they watch Will Smith slap Chris Rock 25 times from different angles. And
I didn't even know that that was happening. Like, I'm so disconnected from the media. I don't even have a TV set up in my apartment.
well,
And
good for you. That's awesome.
yeah, because, well, I find the best way to not do the bad things is to not have the bad things as an option for me.
Yes,
So
I
I
agree with
just
that.
remove the bad stuff. Like, I love to eat bad food. Like, I love burgers and pizza and chips and stuff. And if I have a bag of chips in my apartment, I will eat the whole entire thing in one sitting. So I just don't keep it in my apartment. So with regards to hitting Hall of Fame, I just removed all the stuff that could knock me off the path where I was going, and focus on one thing. So being organized, I think, like leads and phone and all that stuff is really great. But if you're not organized and you're not planning out your year on how to get there, so you have a macro goal and then a micro goal. And for me, I became very structured. So I was thinking, okay, how do I hit Hall of Fame? And I'd mapped out, and why I was behind in the end is because I didn't map it out in the beginning. I was just running around with no direction. I was just writing good business, like a lot of business, but it wasn't enough. And then towards the end, I took a look and I broke it down, October, November, December. And I said, okay, this is what needs to happen. Every single month, I need to write X amount of premium. And how do I get to X amount of premium, 50K of premium? Okay. Weekly, I have to submit, 15K. However it was, how do I get to 15K? Okay, I know that to get to 15K, I'd have to have 15 families a week. Okay, what does that look like for appointment count? Then I'd break down my appointment count. Maybe I have to run like 35 appointments. Okay, so I need to be on the phones however long it takes me to get to 35 appointments. How many leads do I have to buy? Maybe 2,500 in leads. You know what I mean? So breaking it down and time blocking in your calendar. I've been really big on explaining that you need to have a schedule and you need to be rigid, because if you don't, you're just going to run around aimlessly. It's going to be 5 years and you're not going to get anything done.
That's right. Man, the way you laid that out was that was really good. More than half of getting what you want is knowing what you have to give up. So I like the fact that you started with that, because people mess that part up. I messed that up. Like, I could give a class on how not to hit Hall of Fame because I've messed it up a bunch of times. But that was a major part of it. And then people would ask, well, why does some people go to those links to do it and others don't? Why do you think that is? Why do some people decide, hey, I'm going to give all these things up, I'm going to get really structured, I want to hit my goal, and then other people just kind of fly by the seat of their pants? What's the difference?
Well, I think that it has to be built up. I don't think that I was just like this. I think that it was built up. So I think that where a lot of people mess up is they want to try to go from no schedule, no structure, no nothing. They wake up at 10
No
and
Doritos.
no Doritos. Like they're eating all the Doritos, and then they wake up the next day and they say, okay, that part of my life is over. I'm a completely new person, and that doesn't work that way. You have to work yourself up to it. So maybe instead of eating the whole bag of Doritos, you say, okay, I'm going to eat the half of the bag of Doritos today.
Right.
And then the next day you're like, okay, today I'm only going to eat a quarter of the bag of Doritos. And then the next day, okay, a third of the bag, and so on and so forth. If you're waking up at, noon, maybe tomorrow wake up at 10. So maybe setting and writing down 5 goals, 5 wins for the day. And that's totally not mine either, which is the great thing about this business, is that you can copy and paste and you can do excellent. That was Matt Smith that says stuff like that, right? And if you guys haven't looked at any of Matt Smith's stuff, he's just so excellent and very structured, and he's a great person to look up on YouTube. But he says, 5 daily wins. And what are those 5 daily wins for you? So it all starts with writing it down. If it's not written down, it's not going to happen. And, going from there.
And I think as a manager, when I think about how this all plays out, I think it really starts with a reason. Like you have to have a good reason to do it. And when I'm recruiting people, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what the reason is early on. Because if you really don't want to change, what are we doing? But it's just like if somebody knew, if you ate one hamburger, Cassandra, and you had a heart attack, and 10 people watched you do it, like you were doing some yoga, and then you were like, I'm gonna get me a burger, and then you keeled over and died, then those 10 people would be like, I ain't ever gonna eat one of those.
Mm-mm.
So they'd have a real good reason. So what was your reason when you started, do you think? Was it just because you were starving because you didn't have a job at the gym?
Yeah, I had to pay my rent. I was thinking, okay, this has to work. This is not going to work. It has to work because out of necessity. And I think that a lot of other people are there right now, but they're not doing anything about it. And that's so crazy. Like you need to pay your bills and you're not working hard enough to pay your bills. And then it turned into, I always wanted my own business, and I actually had a meeting with one of my managers when I was at the gym I was training at. I was at it was a very nice gym, high-end gym, and we were talking about goal setting, and he's like, well, what do you want in life? And I said, well, I want to own my own business eventually, and I don't know what it's going to be in yet, but I just want to be able to do whatever I want. And fast forward 2 years later, he's calling me and asking me, hey, what's this thing that you're doing with Family First Life? And he was my manager, and he brought that instance up. And so I was always wanting my own business. I had my own meal prep business and my own personal training business, but it was very hard to scale and make any real money at. And this is very easy to scale. And it's a product that I really think that everyone needs and everyone needs to be educated on. And I enjoy educating people. And it comes from that I want to be able to take care of my family. I'm not married, don't have any kids or anything like that yet, but I will eventually, hopefully, maybe. And, I want to take care of my mom later on. My parents are divorced, and, I want to be able to take good care of my mom because she always took good care of me.
God bless you. I want you to take good care of your mom too. That's awesome. So you were just in Dallas at that meeting that Sean did. So what was that, like a staff meeting, or he was meeting someone's staff, or?
Yeah, so Sean has been going around, keeping it real like he always does, with staff, and just letting us know what it's going to take and the expectations to be an integrity staff, essentially. So we were just there learning about the opportunity to partner with integrity, and our staff need to be there because our staff are an intricate part of what we do on a daily basis. I know that I would not be in business without my team member. Her name is Leslie, and she basically she's my everything. She does lots of things for me. So that's what I was there for. It was really good.
Got it. Well, that was awesome. Yeah, staff is a huge component with actually building the business, and even running at a high rate. Back in the day, all we had was paper apps. So I think about Paul's first staff, it was just somebody to decipher his handwriting and send it in. And if he didn't have that, and to call the carriers and be like, hey, did it go through? And he would just be out running. But if you didn't have that and you were waking up at 5 a.m. to get on the phone with a carrier, and then you had to do that, and then you had to prep your food, and then you had to, it's really hard to do if you don't set up something in place to leverage. So So I think it's really awesome that you have staff and you're going that route. So did you actually do a tour of integrity? Did you go to
I
the office?
so so I have done that meeting. I got to do a tour of the integrity building, which was awesome. And they explained, how your business has to be structured, all that stuff. And that was awesome. I met some of the integrity team members and they were very nice, and which I'm not surprised. And then I went to the meeting with Sean for the staff members, but I actually went to the wrong building and I went to the integrity meeting building, but it was at a different building. So I was thinking, I was in the elevator and I called Alex and I said, okay, what floor are you guys on? And he goes, 4. And I look at the tabs on the elevator and it's like 10, 30, 40. I'm like, there's no number 4. There's no number 4. And then I call him, I said, you're at the integrity building, right? He says, no, it's 30 minutes away. So I walked in, I felt so bad.
So you walked in late.
I did walk in late and Sean hates that.
Yeah, he does. You were the sacrificial lamb for a second there.
Yeah, it was bad.
So, all right. So let's get back to sales stuff. When I started in the field, I had a bad problem with persistency. Like everybody I sold canceled. Did you ever experience anything like that?
Actually, yes. The first month that I did 50K, I had a really bad persistency that month.
Yes.
Really bad.
Why do you think you had bad persistency and what you do to change it?
Because I was pushing people into too high of a premium. And I didn't mean to be pushing them. I was just like, they were like, yeah, that one. And I was like, okay, whatever. That's fine. Let's do it. And then I realized, you really have to be an advocate. And I didn't realize that I wasn't. I was just moving so fast that month. And I had, quite a lot of chargebacks. And now when I go out into the field, I'm really, really diving into their situation. I'm actually trying to down close them. Like if they go for the high one, I'm like, no, let's go for the middle one or the bottom one, because I just want you to be able to pay for it. And if you need to, we can up it. You have the full month. So I think that was helpful when I realized that you don't try to sell everybody the biggest package. Like that's not the point of this business. The point of this business is to make sure that they have the coverage in place when they need it. And the only coverage that matters is the one that they can pay for. So I think that was a big thing. Also, I wasn't solidifying the sale and I didn't have staff at that time. So I was just like running and gunning and helping people with policies, but I wasn't following up with them.
Got it.
Now I have my staff call every time I sell a policy the next day. Hey, I'm calling from Cassandra Carter's office. Just wanted to make sure everything's good to go. I'm going to be following up with you if you need anything. My name's Leslie. I have her call and make sure that, the person knows that they're taken care of. This is a real business. I'm running a real business and I have service to offer them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I did the same thing when I started, because you can make it make so much sense that even if it's like you'll be there, like the person makes $3,000 a month and you show them a policy that's $450.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that sounds great. And you're like, oh yeah, of course, And but then I think I had something like 17 in a row I almost put myself out of business in the beginning.
Yeah.
And the other part of it that I was doing wrong was the reason why you're able to downsell and do all that stuff so well. How many appointments do you run a week?
About 25.
Okay. If you're running 5 appointments or 7 appointments a week, you can't downsell nobody because you have to make it work. So the secret to all of this is having enough appointments. It gives you the proper posture.
Yeah, but right now I'm running 25, but when I was shooting for Hall of Fame, I was running 30 plus.
Yeah. Holy cow. Yeah, that's why it works. So okay, so let's say you do 30 appointments in the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like What do you think the most amount of appointments you've run in a row that they didn't buy it?
A whole weekend,
So how many would that be?
a little
15?
over, probably 15.
Okay.
But
All right. So
then that's when I hit my first 50K month. But then, and I just come home and I'm just so discouraged because 15 appointments is a lot for you to not help anybody, and driving around probably 800 miles, 600 miles.
yes.
But then I just center myself on Monday and just start dialing it at 8 a.m., no later than 8 a.m. And, I'd have a game with myself, like I wasn't allowed to have any coffee until I booked an appointment. And and I like to play games with myself. Okay, you can have this if you could do this. I gotta reward myself. So, but then I book, 15, 18 appointments for Tuesday, Wednesday, and sell, help like 15 families.
Yes. Hey, so interesting you say that. There's been like this phenomenon. So I've been in FFL since 2014. And there's this phenomenon that happens. Like you could get a bunch of top producers that never talk to each other about stuff and then like interview them separately in different places with no one around. And they'll end up saying a lot of the same stuff that they just come to these conclusions, right? So Paul McLean used to always say this. He said what he would do is, and Zach Podolsky too, he said he'd have a goal and he would do this reward and punishment thing. And he's like, if I don't hit this by this, then I got to run the weekend. But if I hit this number, then my reward is I don't work on Sunday. And they would do all these games and the coffee thing, like I can't have my first cup of coffee, or I can't do this, or the reward would be if I help this many families, Matt Smith would buy a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And they would just, that's so interesting that you say that, because everybody comes up with the same stuff, but that's how you keep it. The problem that people run into is you'll do 15 in a row where they don't buy it. And you start thinking to yourself that that's like they're connected some way. And they're not. Like the last one that didn't buy doesn't know the next one that's waiting for you. And
Yeah.
that's always been the hardest thing when I was in the field, is just like, they're not connected. Those are just the 15 that we're going to buy. Sometimes it's the first 15, sometimes it's the last 15, or sometimes
Yeah.
they're just spread out.
Yeah, I try not to. Sean says you should never know what happened in a home when you come out of the home. You should stay level. And I think that that's a big thing in this business, to stay level, because now when I go out into the field and I only, because it's been trying to build and trying to sell at the same time. It's been a balance. It's been a balancing act for me. I'm still getting the hang of it. So, when I'm on the phone doing XYZ for my agents and it's dial day and I've only booked like 5 appointments, I'm like, crap, I only booked 5 appointments. And then I go out into the field with 5 appointments, and obviously it's not a good time. And I get done with the day. I'm like, well, like, that's my fault. Whatever. It's just the first 5 of the week. Like, I'll help someone down the week. I just got to book more appointments. So what I'm saying is that, don't get upset because you didn't work the numbers.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's
Like,
what everybody does.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Everybody wants to know the numbers. Like, show me the numbers, want to know the numbers. But the answer is always in the numbers, and it's the last place people look. If you really looked at how much time you actually spent on the phone booking appointments and how many you actually booked, that solves like all your problems, How does the hybrid thing work? Like if you were to give a schedule for how you're trying to do it,
Yeah.
are you mixing in live transfers in the middle, or
no? I stopped doing the live transfers because I thought they were really expensive and I didn't think that they were worth that much money for the quality of lead that it was. Like,
Yeah.
it's basically like an internet life lead. You just have someone that answered the phone exactly when they called and then transferred it to you. So
yeah, it's $150 exactly.
Exactly. So I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I sold one, and I did it for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I was like, no, not for me. Honestly, if people wanted to do the live transfer thing, I would just get a friend in the business and I would just call people and then be like, please hold, I have another agent on the line. And then I would just switch off like
Yeah,
a partner system, like, oh, I have an agent on the other line. Would you like me to transfer you over so you can see what you can get qualified for? And then just give the phone to your friend that's an agent. That's what I would do if I wanted to try the live transfer thing. But what I'm doing is on Fridays and I'm a very compartmentalized person. I don't like to be doing one thing and then doing another thing. If I'm going to be in the field, I want to be in the field. I just want to be running appointments. That's it. Then on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, then I'm trying to sell over the phone. Like I'm calling, some of my mortgage leads. I'm calling some of my internet life leads and trying to either one call close or set up appointment for later that day. But if you're doing a phone appointment or a virtual appointment, it needs to be for that day or immediately after the next day, because the no-show ratio is just really high.
got it. That makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
are you still doing travel trips on your field days? Or how far do you think you go?
So I run a lot in my backyard, to be honest. And when I go on a travel trip, I usually go to Hawaii.
Mhm.
And then I just go for like a week or so and run business out there and then come back. I had leads in Oregon, but I didn't do good in Oregon. So I was like, I'm going to give those away. I don't want those.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Well, here's the other thing that's interesting about lead strategy, Cass. We'll end with this because people mess this part up. Like they get too attached. If something's not working, just don't do that.
Yeah.
It's okay to let areas go. It's okay to change it up. When you started, you weren't running mostly in your backyard. It was a process to get that in place. It
Yeah.
took time, right? So I think people think the plan they start with is going to be the ultimate plan, and you have to be open to letting it change, right?
Well, yeah, my plans are always changing. The goal is the same, but your plans are going to have to change as you are trying to get there, because not everything's going to go according to plan. It almost never does.
That's the truth.
Especially with me. It's like anything that can go wrong, it will go wrong.
So, well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being our guest. I know we could ask you a dozen more questions. Let me just see if I missed anything. How many appointments a week? Love this, so transparent. Great conversation today, and Trey H equals integrity. Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
Congratulations, by the way. So
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, you don't get to be an integrity partner without a team. It wasn't me. I'm just the benefactor of it. Great organization. There are so many people on this call that are way closer to integrity than they realize. I can think of 5 people on this call that are closer to integrity than I was a year ago. And it's just the process. You just have to keep doing the stuff that's working. If it's not working, change it, and don't be afraid to fail. All this stuff you're saying right now, like it fits on the agency side of it too. Especially the responsibility part. And when you're talking to people, don't let them sell you on why they think it doesn't work. Like, think about how pathetic it is if somebody goes, "Oh yeah, but the leads were bad." Yeah, but you can change that. Like, you can get better. You can change where you're calling. You can drive. You can get another lead type. You can Facebook. There's all kinds of things you can change. But don't sell me on why it's not working because you want me to have a pity party with you. Like, that's not going to work very well.
Mhm.
And as a manager, is my biggest struggle, by the way. The biggest obstacle from where you are to where you actually want to go is that. It's letting people sell you on why it's not working. If it's going to work, it's going to be because of you, and I'm not going to take the credit. And if you fail, it's going to be because of you, and I'm not going to take the blame. That's the best thing Andrew Taylor ever did for me, is he helped me understand that. So, all right. Well, thanks for jumping on. This has been
You're
really
welcome.
great. You guys, if you see Cassandra around, or if you go to Hawaii and she's there, just tell her hi.
Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your dial day.
All right. Have a good week.